All right, today I thought we'd do a nice little landscape charcoal drawing of Yosemite from the viewpoint of Glacier Point looking towards Half Dome. We're going to be using willow charcoal or vine charcoal, some things to wipe the charcoal with, and gummy eraser. So let's get started. First thing I like to do, you know how we do it. We're going to tone this paper down. I'm going to just tone this paper down, get rid of the white. There we go. Just make a big mess, really. Just make a big mess. Then, just going to grab a nice piece of fabric. In this case, just a brown piece of fabric. It can be an old paper towel, napkin, part of a t-shirt. And I'm just going to rub this into the paper. And if you see here, this is why I don't like paper with texture. Right here, this paper has very little texture. So what you get is this nice, smooth gradation of the graphite, or excuse me, the charcoal on the paper. It almost actually looks like, if you're familiar with photography, film photography, it looks like old film grain to me. I really like the look of it. There, now we have a nice even tone. We can get darker or lighter. So I thought today we would just do a nice little drawing of Half Dome as seen from Glacier Point. If you've ever been up to Glacier Point, you can get up there a couple different ways. In the summertime, you can drive up to Glacier Point. You can just drive up the Glacier Point Road, and it takes you about an hour from the valley, and you get up there, and there's a nice viewpoint. In the wintertime, or before the Glacier Point Road opens, if you have a little more energy, you can hike up what's called a 4-mile trail from the valley floor, and that'll get you up there. Or if you want a more of an adventure, you can hike up from the valley floor through the panorama trail, and you can get there that way. It's a little bit longer. So I'm just making some marks for the things I want to have in here. So this is obviously Half Dome here. This is going to be the background area. All this back here, this is going to be Little Yosemite Valley back here. Very little detail, far off in the distance. The diving board area is going to be here. Ansel Adams' famous black and white photo done from the diving board area right there. And then the light's going to be coming this way. The back part of Half Dome will be illuminated, and the left side, the north side, will be in shadow. And then this whole area is the shoulder. It kind of dips down, and then we have this line that dips down into here, and then over here is Liberty. Liberty Cap is going to be kind of hiding out over there. Maybe he'll be off the page just a little bit. And then we have the shoulder here. Granite staircase is on the opposite side, and then this kind of comes down to this point here. When I'm drawing out, I don't want to have too much detail at first. I just want to have kind of indications of where things are going to be. So there we go. Maybe we'll make Half Dome just a little bit higher. There we go. That's better. Okay, so there's Half Dome here, Little Yosemite Valley. The other side of the valley, this is going to come down here. The other side of the valley is going to be down here, Merced River, and then we'll have some of the other parts over here. North Dome will be over off to the left. And back here, the peak behind Half Dome, when you see it from Glacier Point, the peak farthest back there is Cloud's Rest. It's actually a little bit higher than Half Dome. It's a really, really great hike that you can get to from Tioga, or Tuolumne, or not Tuolumne Meadows, but Lake Tenaya trailhead. You can get there. Sunrise Lake's trailhead, you can get there. You actually look back down on Half Dome. It's the opposite direction. So that's kind of what we're going to do here. So first thing I want to do, I'm going to darken up the sky just a little bit. I want to have a little bit more contrast in the sky, so I'm going to darken up the sky just a little bit. I want these white granite parts to really pop off the page, so I'm going to darken up this a little bit. Now, I'm going to wipe it down again. I'm going to use another piece of paper. I'm just going to rub it in. All right, so there, put that in. I'm going to use my just a little bit to soften this up, just a little bit. Just a little bit. Just want to soften this up, almost like I'm painting with it. There we go. Okay. I'm going to get a smaller piece of charcoal here. This is good. Yeah, let's get this one. Small piece of charcoal here, vine charcoal, and I'll just redraw that outline. He's up here, and he kind of just comes down, and then he falls off the back. kind of has this angle here, and then the diving board is going to be highlighted here. So everything off the end of the diving board down here, this is going to be in the shadow. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to go ahead and fill this in a little bit. There we go. Fill that in. Diving board's there. Take my paper wiper here and just blend it back in there. Just blend that, soften that up. Soften up some of that edge right there. Some back on Cloud's Rest. Cloud's Rest is going to be very bright. There's not going to be a lot of detail back there. Here, and then we come out to this little ledge here, and it's still kind of in the shadow, and that shadow is going to travel all the way down, using the edge of my charcoal now, all the way down here. This one as well is going to come down, and then there's a highlighted area right here, and he drops down into the valley. So I'm going to put this in, and then I'm going to add a little bit of texture to it with my eraser. This kind of comes down. There's another part that looks like after the diving board, there's an area that is a rounded area. There's a group of trees right in here, and a couple other very steep things that drop down, kind of this cliffy area here. So I'm just going to, using again the side of my charcoal, just following the shape of how I want that granite to fall. There's another steep part here that's in the shadow. There's a dark area here. I'll darken him up right in here. And then a couple highlighted areas here. I'm not worrying about detail just yet. I just want to think about placement and light and dark. And then this back shoulder kind of comes off like this, back here. And there's groups of trees out here. So I'm going to put in just some indication of cliffs, and granite, and rocks, and crags, things that happen here. And then don't forget our back needs to be back here. Too far away for too much detail back there. I'm just going to use this, kind of lay in some areas of light and dark. Down in Little Yosemite Valley, way out there, part of the John Muir Trail. You get up to the top of Nevada Falls and you can go right. You can start on Yosemite Valley, Little Yosemite Valley. You can go left and you can continue up to where Half Dome is. A little bit of indication on Cloud's Rest. A few little lines following the shape of the granite. I'm following that shape, steep shape, using the edge. All right. I'm going to use my gummy eraser. If you haven't got a gummy eraser, if they get too dirty, you just mush them around like this. And what we're going to do is I'm going to add some granity texture to the area here. So I'm going to get a small clump like this, and I'm just going to start moving it around, back and forth, even rolling it like this. Look, roll it, and you can get really cool. Just move it around and push and dab and twist and pull, and you can get really cool effects that look like granite rock. A little bit over here. And when you need to get the edge of something, what you can do is make a nice little sharp edge right there. And let's say we want to highlight the top of Half Dome. We'll just give this a little bit of a highlight here, and then back on here, and then maybe right on the edge of that dome, right in there, and pull that down. And then the top of this kind of shoulder area has a lot of light on it. And of course our diving board here has some light on it as well. And then some of these areas have light hitting them as they come down off of that shoulder, back down to the Yosemite Valley. There we go. Okay, so now we're kind of getting some form. You always want to think about your light and your dark. Your lights and your darks are what's going to create kind of that depth of illusion. Put it right in here. There's always this little line that happens right in here with Half Dome. Maybe I want to lighten up some areas. Just give the indication of some vertical cliff edges there. There we go. All right. Now we're looking good. And then this area is very highlighted here. And then we have another highlighted area out here. And you can use the side of your gummy eraser as a drawing tool like we're doing here. Some highlights to these back mountains in the back portion of Yosemite, back into that Ansel Adams wilderness back there. Clouds rest, can draw a couple lines. So I have a very small piece of vine charcoal, and if I want, I can start adding some small indications of lines back here. Down in this valley. Like that. And the other thing is, right here there is a little ledge that has some trees on it. So I'm going to make some very small trees just by tapping. Indication of trees right here. Right there. And then as we move down here, I'm going to draw a couple other little lines, and I'm twisting this as I draw, just to give the indication of some of those rocks that happen right on the edge of that. Right there. Okay. In our granite. I'm twisting it. When I move, I'm twisting it left and right. And now let's see here. Back a half dome. Let's define the back half. So then we have our areas out here. We can kind of give the indication of some little forest areas by just using the flat part of our, right back here. Now, right on the shoulder here, there is also another group of trees so far out there that you can't really see them. So I'm going to add some more of these trees. I'm simply going to make, with a small piece of charcoal, I'm going to just tap vertically. Tap, tap, tap. Very small. And that's going to give the indication that there are small groups of trees that live right out on the end of this kind of shoulder to the half dome. It's very important that you follow the curvature of this. I'll show you what I mean. So I'm going to curve the trees around. So I'm going to bring this down and curve them over. And that kind of helps us believe that that's kind of a curved area. And then another group of trees that lives right in here. And then sometimes it's good to just give just one little tree here or there. And we'll tap this into the edge. Charcoal's getting pretty small. Let me get a little bit bigger piece of charcoal. There we go. And I'm just tapping down. And let's get a little bit over here. We'll get him in a second. And then down on the valley floor, there's trees down there, so this area tends to be a little bit darker. So I'm going to draw in some of these indications of trees in the very back of the valley. That would be back Snow Creek Trail. You can hike back in the valley back to Mirror Lake. And then you can keep going up that Snow Creek Trail all the way up. You can eventually connect it to Olmsted Point. There we go. We get the idea. There it is. There it is. Now, let's clean that up a little bit. Gummy eraser. Can kind of define some of these edges just a little bit. Just make a nice gummy eraser. Going to make a nice edge. And I'm just going to draw in with this edge some highlights of this granite on this far side here. If you ever want to be alone in Yosemite, walk up that Snow Creek trail. Every time I've been up there, there's never anyone back there. All right, that's good enough for there. All right, let's darken up this just a little bit. There we go. Okay, a couple more indications of some trees. And I want to draw in a few more lines here. I'm twisting this charcoal just to give us the idea that there's some kind of cracks that happen in here. I think Half Dome kind of needs to come out just a little bit more. And this is the really cool thing about charcoal. It's very flexible. The vine charcoal anyway. Now if you use compressed charcoal, it can be a little bit trickier to work with. Compressed charcoal will be nice. It'll be a little bit darker. You can get it a little bit darker, which is good sometimes, but it doesn't erase quite as easily as the vine charcoal because the compressed charcoal is built and made with a binder, a wax binder in it, almost like a crayon. And if you've ever tried to erase a crayon, you know you're in a world of hurt trying to get that wax off that paper. Let's define our little diving board area here with a little tiny tip using my gummy eraser as a drawing tool to erase some highlights. There we go. There we go. There we go. Nice. Let's put a tree in here. Right there. Let's put a couple trees in here right there. Yeah, all right. Tree. Start with there, and we're just going to start with this top. Just going to add a little bit of, just making small little sweeps like that. And then moving down, get a little bit bigger, get a little bit more stronger. I'm laying it down a little bit flatter, making a bigger mark. And you can hear how hard I'm hitting. I gotta hold my board down just to keep from it moving around. And then by the time you get to the bottom, you can tell, you can use more of a gestural stroke. We get the idea that it's a tree. Now, if you want to go back and make all these things just exactly perfect, if you have time to do that, then go ahead. All right, there's that one. Let's knock this one out. Boom. Tree living right here. And this will kind of push back our Half Dome. You have that nice dark thing in the foreground. It'll push it back. This is how you would generalize a tree. I'm not really looking at any individual tree. But you want to make them a little bit different. You don't want them all to look exactly the same. They get a little too cookie cutter if you do it this way. So give some of them some character. Shoot, what the heck. Maybe we'll give some individual branches to this one. And if you want to add a couple little twisty little jobbers that come off of this. Take our gummy eraser and just let's make some stems in here. I'm just going to tap, make it nice and straight. I'm just going to give it a little indication that there's a tree trunk living back in there. Something like that. So we can kind of see the direction of the tree. Just like that. And every time you do it, you need to fold it back again and get a nice clean spot. There we go. Maybe this one back here needs. There. All right. Well, that just about does it. Hope you enjoyed this little quick tutorial. If you like it, go ahead and give it a shot. And join me again for another one. Thanks.